Will you please stop that? Again with the shirt. Can you stop taking... Can you give me something to wear at least? This is too smart!
Red light, green light. Red light, green light, go!
Yep, this is too tight. Whatever. So, Sonic Team Racing. A game that is, well, a game. Now, hearing about the blue Hedgehog in a go-kart of some sorts to race against his opponent is a bit weird to say, considering he's the fastest thing alive, but that's not the most unheard of thing before. We got games like Sonic Drift to introduce our little blue Hedgehog behind the wheel for the first time, and for, well, one reason or another, it certainly would not be the last, with Sonic and All-Star Racing Transform being the latest entry into the Sonic Racing lineup. And yet, here we are again with Sonic and his pals behind the wheel after almost 6 years from that game. And the marketing team for this game really had fun with some sort of live-action grocery store race to kind of represent the game in some way and fashion, to a 2-short episode animated series of Sonic Racing Overdrive, which, by golly, is such a joy to watch. I recommend everyone to watch this whenever they get a chance. It's well made, well animated, it's beautiful, and the humor is great. Aside from market racing and 2 animated shorts, there have been other marketing strategies to try to hype us up for this game, but I'll get to those in a bit.
Oh, you remind me of my grandson!
Oh, and what a handsome chap he must be!
The game was mainly developed and handled by Sumo Digital. Now, they're the ones who handled the previous Sonic and All-Star Racing games beforehand, so you know you were in good hands with this racing game. Now, the plan for this racing game wasn't as straightforward as just replacing all the other Sega All-Star casts with just Sonic friends. Okay, I'm sorry. Can we talk about this? Eggman just killed Team Rose and just went past her corpse in ashes. Are you kidding me? Why is no one talking about this? Trust me, you put in different music and different sound effects, you get a different tone here.
Oh shit.
I'm just saying, the rating system definitely slipped past this one. I mean, that cannot be E for everyone. Anyway, back to what I was saying. There certainly was a good amount of ambition and hype for this game, but did it really hold up to itself? Well, that's what we're here to find out. So today, I'm going to review Team Sonic Racing.
The story. Do you want new cars?
Okay!
The game.
Alright, even with joking aside, that's essentially what you're gonna get out of this story. This Tanuki named Donpod just invited Sonic and his friends to test out these new cars for research purposes. Of course he said yes, I mean, free new cars! As you race along, you start coming across some familiar faces who also got their hands on these new cars. With more of Sonic's friends coming together, you start growing suspicious that the Donpod may not be all he may seem. I mean, I would be suspicious too of getting a free new car just like that, but you know, that's just me. Of course, Eggman eventually comes to the fray, just being the bad guy, and that's about it. You find out that Donpod really is just some random Tanuki that just gave him free cars, and everyone else just continue on racing like nothing happened. There really isn't much else you can take out of this story. Like many other racers with story in them, they're not exactly deep or strong. And unlike Sonic Forces, this one isn't taking itself serious either. Not much else to say, the story and the presentation itself was just fine enough to get the ball rolling for this game. Let's move on.
The gameplay.
Alright, there's a lot to unfold here in this little racing game, so bear with me folks. You got your basic forwards and backwards for driving and drifting. Drifting long enough allows you to charge up to 3 charges of boost. There's also the 3-2-1 boost you're able to do at the beginning of each race, to best capitalize and get a head start upon your opponents. This game also offers a flipsy system, whereby going in the air you're able to flip and change your direction depending on what you want. Doing enough flips and not screwing up, upon landing you get a nice boost to kind of kick yourself forward. While doing the flips, you're also able to adjust yourself in positioning while moving side to side, or in some cases, knocking off your opponent to the side. And what's a Sonic game without rings? And they're here to collect too. Collecting rings help increase the speed of your vehicle.
For me, I didn't feel much of a difference, but hey, if they're there to help, I mean, who am I to complain, right? The rings are scattered all over the map, so they're not too bad for you to collect. Just try not to get hit or mess up on your landing, or else you'll lose all your ring progress. And it's all about racing and beating your adversaries and try to take first place in the race. Simple enough, right? However, this racing game offers a little bit of twist, as it's not just a solo ride to first place, as you're now paired up with 2 other teammates in a team racing battle, utilizing your skills and each other to race and win as a team. Now before we talk about strategy and teamwork, let's talk about characters. There are 15 characters to select here. Essentially, every character drives differently, however, in 3 categories they drive quite similarly to one another. There's speed, technique, and power type characters, and depending who you choose will some way alter the way you drive. Speed characters are a bit of a no-brainer. They are the quote-unquote fastest characters there are to drive in this race. However, they do have some sort of light perk to them. By boosting, they emit some sort of radius wave attack that kind of blocks or repels away any incoming projectiles that enters the radius of the driver. Now, I'm not downplaying that idea, but for me, I don't got time to worry about that. The timing is way too precise for me to execute a burst as soon as a projectile enters my area. The heck with that, I want to get out of there! Aside from being really speedy, they're not too great on off-terrain. But you know what racers are really good on off-road racing? Technique racers, and they're by far my most favorite type, so be sure to be seeing a lot of those in my video. Now, they're not as supposedly fast as the speed type characters, but like I see that much of a major difference, and not to mention their off-road mechanic is great. No terrain will slow these guys down, as they'll just continue on running and racing like nothing. From grass to soft sand to goo to freaking lava. These guys will drive through anything without any hesitation of slowing down. Last and certainly least, the next type of character is the power characters that can go through obstacles. I mean, it's not the worst thing there is. It's really nice to just bust through anything that gets in your way. But the downside for these guys is that they're very clunky and hard to drive, and they're just not my favorite. In comparison to speed and technique types who are built and made for speed, which is essentially what a racing game is all about, the power type drivers are certainly the ones I did not spend a lot of time on. Alright, we got the races out of the way, now let's talk about racing tracks. Now, racing tracks are divided into certain areas that the tracks originate from. And essentially every area has 3 tracks, so there's like over 20 tracks total. To better explain myself, let's take for example a Planet Wisp track here, and show a comparison to another different Planet Wisp track here. Same area, just different tracks. Anyway, so let's go down the list of certain areas. I apologize if I missed any, but there's a Planet Wisp track, Seaside Hill area, Casino Park zones, Haunting Deserts, Final Fortress, Ice Cap tracks, Market Street, and Volcano. Now, a lot of these tracks are very well designed, and in fact I enjoy most of them. However, there are tracks I do enjoy, but don't like certain portions of them, and sometimes I just don't like the track entirely. However, that's just my personal opinion on certain segment of tracks, but other than that, the rest is just fine. Now, enough about tracks, let's talk about items. What's a wacky kart racer without wacky items? In this game, the items take very similarly to that of Mario Kart, but they come in the form of wisps. We got your standard white wisp boost to give you a good, well, boost when you're slowed down, or just to kick yourself forward a bit. We got the green shell orange rockets that are, well, you know, just there to attack the opponents and ricochet off the walls. Your red shell red eagles to home in on the closest opponents and take them out. Your ghost wisp that makes you impervious to just about everything, including off-terrain if you're not a technique character. And while it's active, it could potentially steal closest opponents' items away and use it for yourself. There's also the bomb wisp, which you can fling up forward and just watch it go kaboom. There's cube wisp that you can leave behind, which leaves a blocking hazard for other enemies, or, you know, just fling it forward. The drill wisp just punches forward and gets you as far into the race as much as possible and just goes through everything in its way. The lightning wisp that calls upon the thunder upon every opponent that's in the race. Then there's the stone wisp. I think it's called a stone wisp. Essentially the blue shell of this game, where it calls upon stone pillars up forward upon your opponents. Now, with enough openings and enough maneuvering, you can get through this just fine. Or, you know, depending on where it's summoned, you can just drive around it. Yeah, they needed to put some more time into that. But anyways, there are those wisps, but now there's also exclusive wisps depending on which type of character you pick. Now, the power type characters have the most exclusive wisps they have accessible to them. However, I don't think that's really suffice enough to make up for their clunkish driving, but oh well, it's better than nothing, I suppose. The speed type characters have the burn wisp that leaves a trail of fire behind them, and just about anyone that's tailgating them or is close by gets spun out. The technique characters have the musical whisk that leaves a bunch of notes and disrupts the viewing screen of the other opponents. The next 3 whisks are power type accessible. There's a spike whisk that has 3 spiky orbs surrounding the player, and they jab at nearby opponents that get into range and spin them out. Then there's a laser whisk that shoots out a beaming laser in front of you, and you gotta aim it and hold on to opponents long enough so they can spin out. This is by far the weirdest one to multitask with, so it's not my favorite. The Void Whisk, however, just eats up everything around it, from rings to other item capsules to your enemies' attacks, and use it against them. Pretty neat. Alright, so you got the characters, the tracks, and the items down. Now it's time to go and race off, but remember, it's not about just you making it to the finish line. Just because you got first place does not necessarily mean you won the race, as unfortunately you are tagged in with, again, the other 2 players. How the system of winning here works is quite simple, to be honest. Now in the race you're given points on your placement, and the higher you place in the race, the more points you're awarded. No duh. The points will then be tallied at the end of the race, where all contributed points from you and your teammates will be put into the team total. The team with the most points wins. So the obvious answer to increase your chances of winning is all about just you and your teammates placing higher into the placements. Of course, as you and your teammates hit that top 3 all together, it's an automatic win from there. Alright, so I talked long enough about this team business, but how does exactly does one team work in a racing game? Well, it ain't Double Dash, I can tell you that, but here are the game's mechanics of teamwork. Now, as you can see, there's like this yellow-like stream being left behind the trail of the character. That's called a slipstream, and it's only emitted in your team by the teammate that's farthest ahead of everyone else. Now, the teammates from behind are able to enter the slipstream, and by doing so, it not only increases your speed, but by following the path and staying there long enough, you're able to get 3 charge boosts, in which by exiting the slipstream, you get yourself a boost. It's a great way to help the teammates lagging behind to catch up quicker. Then there's the item transferring mechanic. Players are able to pass along any items that they have to other teammates that are in need of it. Using the item transfer on certain items triples your quantity when they're passed along, allowing you or a teammate to be 3 times more effective in the race. Another great mechanic added to the game is called a skim boost. If a teammate zooms right by you while you've been slowed down previously in the race, you get a nice boost that kicks you up forward. However, the boost potential can vary depending on how fast the teammate's going and how close by they are, I believe. This is by far one of my most favorite mechanics of this game because it's nice that even if you get slowed down, just by having teammates zoom past you allows you to pick up your speed once again almost immediately, without having to deal with the sluggish start of trying to get yourself up and running again. Now, one more thing you can do to contribute to your team efforts is called a rival takedown. Simple concept. If you connect an attack with an opponent that is ahead of you in the race placement, you contribute to your team with a rival takedown. Now, by performing these actions, you not only just do a little bit better in the race, but you contribute to something a little bit more greater. Doing these build up some sort of team meter for all of you simultaneously. Build enough and then you do what's usually called the ultimate team power. A crazy strong attack that just makes you invincible and super fast all at the same time. Now this is an interesting great reward that they offer the players for just working together, but you get these points regardless of just by playing the game normally, so I guess. It punches through obstacles, enemies, and enemies' attacks like nothing. But you want to time it carefully because you don't want to use it in the air because it's practically worthless there. In fact, to best optimize this usage, the game encourages you to use this ability with your teammates. Doing so allows the team ultimate to last longer for you. Now with CPUs in your team, that's not much of a problem. It's when you're with actual people that gets a little bit more tricky, but more on that later. Now on certain tracks, or at least to my knowledge of certain tracks because I have not seen it all over, you can nab yourself an invincibility capsule that is essentially a watered down version of the team ultimate. It's simple, it gives you invincibility, impervious to just about everything, and it gives you a small speed boost. It should function just about as closely to the team ultimate. Emphasis on should. Alright kiddos, now you know how to play the game, now it's up to you! With you and 2 other friends, oh wait, I forgot I don't have any friends to play locally with this game. Online mode! Hop online, settle into a group, and get ready for a race. Now, racing with CPUs is fine and all, but the game truly shines with other players in your team. In this game, there's no better view than seeing a whole roster full of players ready to race. And there's also a good sense of feeling just seeing a whole team comprised of actual players instead of CPUs. Not saying always or the intent that you're always gonna win, but it's more fun to see. It really is great to have on your side to help you out in a pinch. This truly is where all the chaos and fun actually ensues. Because now you also got competent opponents to worry about. And the team combination is always interesting to see. Like, yeah, nothing says uninstall your game right now like getting your butt kicked a lot by a team full of Amy Roses. However, that also brings up a point of the bad matchmaking that this game has. Assuming you're not with friends already, The teams in the lobby is comprised completely out of random. Also, depending on how many players are in the lobby, the matchmaking isn't too bad when it comes to comprising the players in the teams. Sometimes, because there have been countless times as the team matchmaking has been odd. Naturally, you would assume that the matchmaking would divide the players into the right amount of teams, depending on how many there are, but instead they just like to pair an entire group into one team and the others are left in the dust. Now, not saying having your two other teammates be comprised of just CPUs is entirely bad, it certainly is still manageable to race, but there really isn't anything like having actual teammates on your team, and going against another team full of teammates is a bit of a disadvantage. Then if you really want a team full of players, well, you kind of get your wish, as the game will put you in a team and pit you against CPUs. Well, I mean, you got your team, but you're going against CPUs, so now where's the challenge here? Overall, the team-making system in this game is quite bad. It really doesn't know how to properly balance players into teams, depending on how many players are in the lobby. The team making adjusts depending on the players that leave or join during the countdown for the race. So you also don't have any control on who you're paired up in a team with. Races can get stale if you're just stuck with the same teammates. You don't get to shuffle around and try other players on a team, you're just stuck with who you got until something happens. Would it really kill the developers to add an option for the lobby leader to add a shuffle feature? Or at the very least, when it comes to matchmaking in a lobby, to have gathered a sufficient number of players and put them in the lobby, instead of hoping and waiting for other players to join and allow that to help make the teams? Because it really sucks trying to get a lobby going with team members, because after the first month's release of this game, good luck trying to find anyone else to join in. Not always, but in my personal experience so far, the online team matches are really barren on the player department. Now, I'm not sure if it's just me or the fact it's just a PS4 and other platforms are having a better time than this, but man, does it suck. The unmeasurable amount of times you just have to sit there and wait for someone to come along and join your lobby is just painful. And don't go hoping that the game will put in a clip of players into your lobby to help get the game going. Oh no, these guys are gonna trickle in one by one. And once someone does actually join your lobby, the countdown for the game to start will begin. I understand why, but this sucks because assuming that they don't leave and no one else joins, it's just going to be you versus that other player. Fun times. And that's assuming that the player you're going against doesn't leave if you perhaps pass him in the race. Because if they're not going to stick around long enough and there's no one else to race against, the race will end there. Meaning you're booted back to the lobby, playing the waiting game, hoping someone comes along. They really needed to make a better matchmaking system for this game. Because if they want to capitalize on the whole team aspect, they need enough players. But if there's not enough players and they all leave, you're just wasting time playing by yourself. However, playing by yourself is a thing in the form of quick play. It's just you versus everyone else with no teammates to worry about. Which is fine, I can understand the appeal, I mean, it's essentially just Mario Kart. But considering that the game was built around the team mechanic, playing this mode for me is a bit bland. And I'm sorry, but can we talk about the supposed rank system in this game? Now, like a lot of multiplayers, there's a ranking and competitive mode, whatever, to kind of just prove that you're the best of the best. And the best format to kind of tell where you are is from via the medals of bronze, silver, gold, etc. Now, I'm not sure if it's just me, but I have bounced from bronze to gold to emerald to silver to all these different rank placements, all within a matter of less than a dozen races. If you're gonna introduce a ranking system, can the gap between each ranking placement be a little bit wider than just winning 2 races? Not to mention that regardless if you play casual mode or ranking mode, your ranking placement will be affected regardless. So why bother introducing ranking mode then if no matter what we do, our rank's gonna be affected? In fact, why even introduce a ranking system at all if you don't know how to do it right? But that's not our only issue, as just like many other multiplayer online games, there's online issues. From being squished out of nowhere, to disconnects, to being flung backwards, and I've counted about a dozen times that happened to me throughout my playtime, to falling into the dark abyss for a good amount of time before the game crashes on me. The game certainly has a lot of kinks to work out, but I mean, hey, no online server is perfect anyhow. I just want to have a good time with a good amount of players to join in to have a good team or other players to race against. Also, for some reason, after every race, you are able to commend players and CPUs for some reason about a good job they did in the race. I mean, it's nice, but really? I mean, here? Why? Are they trying to be like other multiplayer games where they have a similar system, except that's more fitting and you actually get awarded for being voted? Like being awarded with something more useful, something like EXP and whatnot, because you don't get awarded EXP in Team Sonic Racing. You do get something else. Not for being commended, but just by completing the race. You're awarded with in-game credits you're able to use, and what can you use them for? A luck draw gumball machine! Huzzah! Now by spending 10 credits, you're awarded randomly on what you get to either parts for a vehicle, or items/perks you're able to use at the beginning of another race. Now, vehicle parts are more valuable, but it really sucks that in order to obtain these, it's completely by random. However, by playing a certain character long enough, the chances of the vehicle parts being for that character specifically will increase for some odd reason. At least from my experience. So, what do you do with all of these vehicle parts, you may ask? The game offers customization for vehicles for the characters. Now, for the most part, it is cosmetic, however, the vehicle parts do play a slightly more important role in here. Not only do the vehicle parts change the appearance of the vehicle itself, but it also alters the attributes of the driver/vehicles for that character. It's a really nice feature to make some small adjustments for you in the long run to help you race better. There are also legendary parts, however, they're nothing more than just a cosmetic paint of gold. It still does kind of stink how you can only get the parts via a random lot, limited to the amount of credits you have earned in the game. However, if you play the game long enough like I have, you'll have more than enough and you shouldn't worry about not getting the part you want sooner or later. You can also customize the vehicles via paint jobs and stickers. The best way to get more paint and stickers is to do story mode via challenges or just by playing it normally, because getting it via the slot machine is by far the hardest thing to do. I don't recall how many times it took me to get even a single sticker or paint. Aside from painting cosmetic, you can also alter the material of the vehicle parts itself. From changing it to plastic to other forms of metal, it's amazing how much creativity they allow. With the surplus amount of customizables, as well as the characters I'm able to customize, you can bet I spent most of my time here than I did with racing. I mean, hey, you can't win a race if you don't look fly, right?
The graphics.
Graphically speaking ways, it looks just as good like any other modern Sonic game. However, in regards to color compared to Sonic Forces, there's a lot of color added to this game. Not as washed out or bleak as Sonic Forces. Heck, even in dark gloomy areas in the races, I can still make out what's going on with how much the colors pop out actually. It's definitely a really pretty game. However, there are times when you get the lighting just right on Vector's eyes and it gets too dark to the point he looks soulless inside.
The music.
It is well known that even the most notorious of Sonic games can provide some really good video game music. And Sega knew about this, so aside from animation and market races, Sega's next marketing strategy would strike a chord towards some Sonic fans with their music. Leading up to the release of Team Sonic Racing, on the Sonic the Hedgehog social media accounts they were uploading soundtrack and music pieces from the game for fans to listen to. What better way to grab the fans' attention than to catch the ears of those who praised the music soundtracks for Sonic games for so long, or giving a chance to newcomers to actually listen to what the soundtracks are really all about. This really was a great marketing strategy and got me impressed and on board with this idea. Heck, this is one of the reasons why I got the game in the first place. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking forward for the next music piece they're going to release on the channel, and by the end of it I just can't stop headbanging and getting it out of my head for a good long while. That and whatever the heck this was.
I'm just making stuff up now. I love you, Froggy.
However, as much praise as I give the music, there is one thing it may fault a little, and that's the fact that a lot of its music pieces aren't very original. A lot of them are generally just remixes or covers from previous Sonic music from the past. And soundtracks that are also mostly original might also have bits from previous soundtracks from before thrown in there for the mix. However, for me, I don't mind this at all. Good music is good music to me. However, those seeking more originality might be a bit disappointed here. The Planet Wisp soundtracks are nice to listen to. The Haunted Desert soundtracks are fine to listen to, but for me, they're quite forgettable. Oh man, the Fortress levels are just bumping. And the nostalgic soundtracks of the casino levels from Sonic Heroes is just a joy to my ears.
Nitpicks.
One gripe I really do have is against the Team Ultimate Attack. I really do get where they're going with this, but I find this a bit too much. Assuming that no one else uses it next right behind you, it's by far an OP move that just, it's just not that good. It's all a matter of just holding out until the situation calls for it mainly. But there's a lot of factors here that just kind of contradict each other, from positioning to the teammates. As stated before, to get the most out of this, you need to use the Team Ultimate Attack all at once. CPUs will automatically do it when you do it, so that's not much of a problem. It's with other players where things just get really inconsistent. Because you're all over the map generally, and sometimes I just don't notice or don't hear it, I tend to miss capitalizing on the Team Ultimate Attack with someone else.
I really wish they would have thought of something else, or at the very least, not include this.
Final thoughts.
Overall, I think Team Sonic Racing is, for the most part, a decently fine racing game. The controls are smooth and everything is quite responsive for the most part. I do find it is overall a harmless addition to the racing genre. Even with the team mechanics, which I admire a lot, it oddly enough doesn't really overstep itself in greatness, unfortunately. Deep down in my own gut, I feel like this game could be fine-tuned a lot more to be more exciting. Aside from customization, there really isn't a whole lot of features offered here for me that want to keep me playing. A decent racer that does a decent job. If I was able to spend $1 to $60 in this game, I would spend $10. It is really friendly to casual players, so anyone who's just looking for a good time just to race will be immediately familiar with the controls here. But like I said, you're not really getting much out of than what you're already given here. And the online play can really use some work. So, if you're someone who's looking for a good racer to purchase for yourself or with buddies, Team Sonic Racing would not be one of my first choices I'd recommend. There certainly are other racers that do provide a bit more of a better experience than Team Sonic Racing. This game will certainly provide you a good short-term enjoyment. I'm not sure about the long-term part though. The best audience I can recommend this game to is for a group of really close friends that just enjoy Sonic a lot. And they seek something in the teamwork racing department. In that case, well, yeah, here you go. But other than that, as good as the music may be, you can find it online, so that's not really much of a problem there. Offline or online with the game, there really isn't much to do, and there is a whole lot that could be better. A harmless addition to the Sonic Racing lineup, but doesn't provide anything really worthwhile. I really do believe they're onto something with the team racing formula, so I am looking forward to seeing it return again enhanced in the future, hopefully. Whew, alright, another review down. Alright, Phantom Ruby, what's next? Come on, hit me. We got this far. What's next?